Yo, what's up? Today, we're learning Daf Yud Aleph of Masechta Shabbis. We're going to continue with some of these statements by Rav Bar Machasya in the name of Rav Chama Bar Guria in the name of Rav. Bunch of random kind of Agada kind of stuff. Then we get to a new Mishnah, and we're going to talk a little bit about carrying things on Shabbos. So, let's do it. 3 lines from the top of Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. Here we go. Ve'amar Rav Bar Machasya Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria Amar Rav, says Rav Bar Machasya in the name of Rav Chama Bar Guria in the name of Rav. Kol ir shegagoseh gavon mibeis hakneses sof chareva. Any city who the roofs of the houses are taller than the synagogue, than the roof of the synagogue, in the end it will be destroyed. Shne'emar, the city will be destroyed. Shne'emar, l'romim es beis Elokeinu u'lahamid es chorvosav, and then it continues, v'lasas lanu gadol b'Yehuda v'Yerushalayim. Right. So in describing the Beis Hamikdash, Ezra says l'romim es beis Elokeinu, to make high the house of our God, u'lahamid es chorvosav, and to stand its destructions, and to make a fence in Judah and Jerusalem. So we see that the Romaim as Beis Elokeinu, that to have the synagogue should be taller than everything else. And by doing that, then you have a gader, a fence, protection. If you don't have that, then you don't have protection. Now this is specifically referring to the houses. But like if you're living in Manhattan and there's many very tall buildings, so it's probably going to be impossible for the chances of having the synagogue be the tallest building in town is pretty slim. So it doesn't apply there. It applies in terms of houses, a suburb where there's houses. So then the synagogue should have the tallest roof. Amar of Ashi. Ana avdi l'mata mechasya de lo chareva. Rav Ashi says, I did in mata mechasya so that it shouldn't be destroyed, i.e. I made the synagogue the highest roof. V'chareva. But one second, I thought mata mechasya was destroyed, which is interesting. So I guess mata mechasya at some point was destroyed. I guess we won't find it anywhere in like Iraq or anything. I guess. So then it says, well, while mata mechasya was destroyed, it wasn't destroyed from the sin of having homes that were taller than the synagogue. If you have to choose, to serve under a Ishmaelite, I don't know, I guess it's traditionally translated as like Arabs, or under a Nochri, which I think is Edom. I don't know. I feel like people sometimes divide that among Christians and Muslims kind of things. I don't know how accurate that is. But either way, if you have to choose between an Ishmaelite or a Edomite, choose the Ishmaelite. Tachas nachri v'lo tachas chaver. But better to serve to be a servant for an Edomite than to be a servant for a Chaver. Chaver was some other nation who was not very pleasant. Tachas chaver v'lo tachas talmid chacham. Better to serve under this chaver than to have to be a servant for a talmid chacham, because if you get the talmid chacham upset, he might whether advertently or inadvertently kill you or something, or curse you, because he's just if he gets upset, then whatever he sort of wants to happen to you might happen. Better to serve under Talmid Chacham than under a Yasam, orphan or a widow, because their word is even stronger than that of a Talmid Chacham. If you do something wrong to them, then you might find yourself in big trouble. Better to have any sickness other than stomach sickness. Kol ke'ev v'lo ke'ev lev, any pain but not heart pain. Kol mechush v'lo mechush rosh, any aches but not headaches. Kol ra'ah v'lo isha ra'ah, all evil, not an evil wife. If all of the seas were ink, and all the swamps were reeds, quills to write with, and the heavens were like, things to write on, like parchment. And all the people were scribes. In maspikim lichtov chalala shorashus. They would not suffice to write about how much sort of space there is in the heart of a leader who has all sorts of things that he has to be juggling at all times, and he manages to give proper attention to all of them. Micro, where do we have a pasuk to base this on? It's a pasuk in Mishlei, Amar of Mesharshia, Shamayim larum va'aretz la'omek v'lev milachim. These three things, right? The height of the heavens, the depth of the earth, and the hearts of kings, ein cheker, there is no evaluating. V'amar Rava bar Mechasya, Amar of Chama bar Guria, Amar Rav, Yafet tainus l'chalim ke'esh l'na'ores. A fast is as effective for a bad dream as fire is effective for highly flammable things. Amar of Chizda uvo bayom. Rav Chizda says, but you dafka need to fast on the day that you have the dream. Amar of Yosef, afilu b'Shabbos. Rav Yosef said, even if that day is Shabbos. We learned in the Gemara in Brachis that if you fast on Shabbos, though, you make up another fast for it on Sunday. Rabbi Yoshua Bered Rav Idi Ikla Lever of Ashi. Avdi le Igla Tilsa. So Rav Yoshua Bered Rav Idi visited Rav Ashi, and they made for him a very delicious veal, a very delicious calf. It was the third calf to its mother. Apparently that's the best tasting one. Amrule, they said to Rabbi Yoshua Bered Rav Idi, Litomar Midi no irepis. Amrulu, he said to them, Betainas Yisivna. He says, I'm fasting. Amrule v'lo savar le'mar l'had Rav Yehuda damar Rav Yehuda love adam tainiso foreh. But don't you hold that which Rav Yehuda said, that he says you can like loan against your tainus and make it up later? So kilu, okay, so you're planning to fast today, but just eat today. We got some good food, and then you'll fast another day. So Amrulay tainus chalamu. So Rabbi Yoshua Bered Rav Idi said, yeah, but this is a tainus chalam. I'm fasting for a bad dream that I had. V'amar Rava bar Machasya, Amar Rav Chama bar Guria, Amar Rav, Yafa tainus l'chalam ke'esh l'na'ores. That a fast for a dream is as effective as fire for highly flammable materials. And Rav Chisda said specifically if it's the following day, and Rav Yosef said even if the following day is Shabbos. Right, so the Mishnah says, right, so going back to our Mishnah on Daf Tesamud Beis, so it says that don't like start getting a haircut or whatever close to Mincha. They say, but if you start, then you don't have to stop. And then the Mishnah says we stop for Kriyat Shema, but we don't stop for Tefillah. So why does it say we don't have to stop for Tefillah? Like we just said, Im eschidu ein mafsikin. If you already started any of these activities, you don't have to stop to daven Mincha. So why do we then have to say that we do stop for Kriyat Shema and we don't stop for Tefillah? We know that we don't stop for Tefillah. We just said that if you started any of these activities, you don't have to stop. So, Hatana le Reisha, we're in Mafsikin. So, the Reisha already said that you don't stop what you're doing to pray. So, Seifa Asan L'Divrei Torah. So, when the Seifa says that in Mafsikin the Tefillah, it's talking about you don't stop learning Torah. It's adding another context where you don't stop something in order to daven, and that is learning Torah. Right? If you're studying Torah, you don't stop in order to daven. Okay? The Tanya, as we learn in a Braisa, Chaverim shayu oskim b'Torah. If you have chaver who are learning Torah, mafsikin the Kriyat Shema mafsikin the Tefillah, so they would stop learning in order to say Kriyat Shema. They wouldn't necessarily stop learning in order to daven. Now, I'm not sure if this means, it's unclear to me. Meaning, Rashi said in the Mishnah that all the activities listed in the Mishnah, it's assuming that you have enough time to then daven afterwards. And then I guess that means that with Kriyat Shema, you do have to stop even though you have time to say it afterwards, I guess. And now we're saying over here, and you can add learning to the list of things that you don't interrupt in order to daven. So I guess that's assuming that you still have time to daven afterwards. Meaning, if you're going to run out of time to daven, maybe everyone would agree that you would stop learning in order to daven. I guess maybe, unless this is different than the other ones. Maybe the other ones were only if there was enough time. But maybe it's saying that by davening, but if you're learning, then maybe it's saying you can keep on learning even if it means you're going to miss davening. I don't know, maybe. Right? Because then it says, fine. So we said, they don't stop the daven. That's only Reb Shimon ben Yochai and his colleagues, because Torah is their livelihood. Like Torah is everything for them. So they don't have to stop their learning in order to daven. But we stop for Kriyat Shema and for davening. Okay? So I'm not sure if that means that if you're learning and then it becomes time to daven, even though there's still plenty of time, you have to stop and daven immediately? Or is it saying that, right, and then we're saying, right, so even, so only Reb Shimon ben Yochai and his friends wouldn't have to stop learning immediately in order to daven. Everyone else does. Right? Or is it saying that no, only Reb Shimon ben Yochai and his friends were able to miss davening completely because they were learning, but we don't do that? I don't know, I'm not sure. But don't we learn in a brayso, we have a brayso that says that actually, wait, just like you don't stop what you're doing in order to daven, you also don't stop what you're doing in order to read Kriyat Shema. So kitani ayi be'iber shana. Now that's specifically for if you're doing, if you're calculating if you need to make a leap year or not, right? It says in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, it describes that 7 people would go up to some attic and they would have to figure out, maybe based on the seasons and all sorts of calculations that they have to decide if they're going to make a leap year or not. So while they're doing that, they don't stop for davening or for Kriyat Shema. So Abba bar Hava said, and similarly it was taught by the elders of Hagronia. Amar Belazar bar Tzadok Shainu Oskim be'ibra Ashana biyavne. Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadok said that when they were involved in determining if they should make a leap year or not when they were in Yavne, lo hayunu mafsikin lo l'kriyat shema v'lo l'tefillah, we wouldn't stop for kriyat shema or for tefillah. Lo yetze achayed b'machto. Oh, new Mishnah. A tailor should not go out with his needle, with his sewing needle, samach l'chashecha, close to nightfall on Friday. Shamiyishkach v'yetze, because lest he should forget and go out with it, right? So we're saying already when it becomes close to Shabbos on Friday, the tailor, I guess he's generally accustomed to always going out with his needle wherever he goes. So we're scared that if he goes out with his needle close to when Shabbos starts, he might forget and take it out when Shabbos comes in. So I guess as a protective measure, and I guess even if most of the time he'll probably remember and take his needle out, but sometimes maybe he'll forget and take it out. And therefore, we say, you know what, if you remember within a half an hour of Shabbos, so then, just don't go out with your needle. Okay? And a scribe should not go out with his quill close to Shabbos for the same reason, that we're scared that he's going to take it out with him on Shabbos. A person should not delouse his clothing. You should not remove lice from his clothing on Shabbos. And you shouldn't read right next to a candle, because we're concerned that maybe you will tilt the candle in order to make it shine better. You'll want to get the oil, coating the wick better. So you'll move around the candle and you'll cause it to burn. They said that the chazan, this is really interesting. He explains that this is talking about the Baal Koreh in the shul, which is really interesting. The Baal Koreh in the shul, it might be Erev Shabbos, and he might, or maybe even on Shabbos, I guess, and he might, maybe it's Friday night, and he knows that he has to lane the next day to read from the Torah, but he might not remember what parsha it is. So he'll just go to the shul and see what the children are reading, Avahu lo Yikra, but he shouldn't read with them because we're concerned that maybe he's gonna tilt the candle. But the kids, they're not going to tilt the candle, so you can just kind of go and peek what they're up to because they're learning the Parshas of Shavua. There's so many interesting things in this little thing right here. It's interesting that the Baal Korah doesn't know what they're reading the next day. Almost as though it's just like a normal thing for him to be reading. It's not like he even has to prepare. He just knows it. It's like in his bones. And maybe he doesn't necessarily read every week or whatever it is. And he just said, I don't know, somehow he didn't know what the weekly Parsha was, which is interesting. Also, the fact that the kids would study the weekly Parsha every single Friday night, I guess they would keep up with the cycle of Parshas. So basically, he can just go to the Beit Knesset and see what they're studying, and then he'll know what to read the next day. Oh, Baruch Hashem. So then, similarly, a Zav who's married to a Zava, I guess they both happen to be Zav and Zava at the same time, so they shouldn't eat with each other, because if they eat with each other, then they might sleep with each other, and if they sleep with each other, well then that is a Isser Kares, so we don't want that. Okay, and we will get more into Zavs and Zavas tomorrow, I think. Fun stuff. Tanan Hasam, we learn over there in Eruvin, says the Gemara. Lo yamur adam b'rishus hayachid v'yishte b'rishus harabim. B'rishus harabim v'yishte b'rishus hayachid. So if, let's say, you're in your house and there's, I don't know, maybe like a glass of water outside or some kind of source of water outside, right? So don't just stick your hand, so don't just stick, your hand and your head out the window and just drink from Rosh Hashanah, because I guess kind of lean over. If you're in Rosh Hashanah in your house, don't just lean over to the water that's in Rosh Hashanah and then just drink from that water, because we're concerned that you might end up taking the water inside to your home, and that would be Otzah Me'er Rosh Hashanah. And also the opposite. If you're outside, don't just kind of lean over a window or something to drink something from inside the house, because we're concerned you'll bring it outside too. However, if he puts his head and most of his body into that place where he is drinking from, then it's okay, because if most of his body, let's say he's in Rosh Hashanah, the water's in Rosh Hashanah, so he kind of sticks most of his body out the window or something like that. So we're not really concerned that he's going to bring it back. It's not necessarily so straightforward for him to just bring it back inside, so we're not concerned that he's going to do that. V'chein begas, and we say similarly that the same thing applies to a wine press, and we're going to explain what this means, this wine press thing. Ibailu, that's the kasha. Carmelis mai, but they want to know, what about a carmelis, right? So if you're in your house in Rosh Hashanah, so don't stick out your head to Rosh Hashanah in order to drink, because it could be Otzah Me'er Rosh Hashanah. But what about if the water was in a carmelis? I don't know, let's say maybe right outside your house is a field or something, right? Or I don't know, maybe there's some kind of platform that is daled al daled but not 10 tefachim, whatever it is. The water is in a carmelis. So now, carrying in a carmelis, right, or hotzah to a carmelis, or from a carmelis, achnasa into your house, whatever it is, the whole interaction between one rishus and a carmelis is only midrabanan in the first place, right? And we're saying, don't stick your head out the window to drink from this place, because we're concerned that if you do that, then maybe you'll end up bringing it, to the rishus that you're in, and that'll be otzah me'er rishus. But in this case, that'll be a double gezerah, right? Keilu, on the one hand, it's only a gezerah midrabanan anyways, to, let's say, be motzi from a carmelis to Rosh Hashanah, let's say, because we're concerned if you motzi from a carmelis to Rosh Hashanah, you might be motzi from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah, right? Are we going to make an additional gezerah not to stick your head out the window out of concern that maybe then you'll do rishus, otzah from the rishus that you're into a carmelis, which in and of itself is only gezerah, lest you do it to, between a rishus hayach and a rishus harabim. So Amar Abaye said there would be no difference in the carmelis. You also would not be allowed to stick out your head into a carmelis and drink water. Rava Amar hi gufa gezerah v'ananekum v'nigzo gezerah l'gezerah. Rava said, one second. The whole thing of not doing hotzah from one rishus to a carmelis is only gezerah d'Rabbanan. Not now. going to make another gezerah to say, now don't even stick your head out the window because you're concerned that maybe then you're going to carry to the Carmelis, which is only a concern that maybe you're going to carry into Rishus HaRabim or Rishus HaYachid, whatever it is. It's too many gezerahs. We're not going to make a gezerah for what's already a gezerah. Amar Abaye, Mina Aminala. Abaye says, yeah, but I have a reason for saying that the same applies to a Carmelis, that you shouldn't stick your head out into a Carmelis and drink. Dikatane, as the Brisa says, or the Mishnah says, V'chein begas, that the same applies to a wine press. Now, the way that a wine press works is that there would be like this area. Okay, there would be like this like kind of like rishusi kind of thing, like this like area where you would put all the grapes in. Then you would go and jump around on the grapes, or maybe dance and press the grapes, and then all the juice would kind of go out into this like bin where you would catch it, and then that's how you would get the grape juice that you would make into wine. So we're saying, v'chein begas, also you shouldn't lean over into a gas in order to drink, let's say, grape juice from the wine press, from the grape press. So Abaye says, my gas, what is this wine press? If the wine press is a Rishus HaYachid, well, Tanina, we already said in the Mishnah, you shouldn't lean over into Rishus HaYachid. Rishus HaRabim, Tanina. And if it's a Rishus HaRabim, so we also said in the Mishnah that you shouldn't lean over into Rishus HaRabim. So, Elalav Carmelis. It must be that it's talking about a Carmelis. And that's the Chiddush of the gas. Is that we already know that you can't do it in Rishus HaYachid. We already know that you can't do it in Rishus HaRabim. The point of the Carmelis is the gas is that you can't even do it in a Carmelis. Rava Amar, whereas Rava said, V'chein begas le'inyan meiser. Rava said that when it says V'chein begas, it's not talking about a Carmelis. It's not talking about, leaning over and drinking and about Hotzame or Rishus on Shabbos. No. It's talking about meiser. What about meiser? So basically, when it comes to, I think it's Truma and meiser. We're saying meiser here though. I think it's Truma and meiser. That in order for you to be chayiv, let's just say meiser, because that's what the Gemara is talking about. So in order for someone to be chayiv in meiser, you have to eat it in a keva, in a kavua way. If I just like go up to a tree and like chop a rind, right, and just take epis and I eat it directly from the tree, I'm not going to be chayiv. It's not going to be chayiv in meiser. I have to do something to make kavua, right? Such as, right, we talked about in other places doing meiruach, putting it in a pile and then like flattening out the pile, or, bringing it into your house, and it's got to come in through your front door, right? Things like that. So when it comes to a wine press, okay, so it's only going to be chayiv and meiser once you remove the juice from the wine press, right? The juice isn't supposed to remain in the wine press. It goes out into a bucket, right? Or if you take a cup out of it and then you drink it outside of the wine press, that's already considered kavua because you're not planning on pouring the rest back anyways, right? You're pretty much taking it out and keeping it. So what we're saying over here is that also by a wine press, you shouldn't lean over the side of the wine press and drink from the wine that's in the wine press because we're concerned, right, that maybe you'll take it out with you, at which point it'll be chayav in meiser and you'll be eating tevel, I guess. So that's what it means, v'chein begas. And it's talking about, it's talking about, either a Rishus HaYachid or a Rishus HaRabim. It's not talking about a Carmelis. It's just talking about a gas, and we're saying that, I guess Rishus HaRabim and Rishus HaYachid isn't relevant because we're not talking about on Shabbos. And therefore, we're just talking about, in general, a wine press. You shouldn't lean over it and drink from it because we're concerned maybe you'll take it out of the wine press, in which case, it'll be chayiv in meiser. And we don't want that to be chayiv in meiser because you're not taking meiser. Fine. So Rav Amar v'chein begas le'inyan meiser v'chein Amar Rav Sheshes, and similarly Rav Sheshes said v'chein begas le'inyan meiser, right? That it's talking about meiser. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, shosin al hagas. Okay, you could drink grape juice. I assume at that point it's grape juice, right? You're just getting the juice out of the grapes, right? Shosin al hagas. They would drink grape juice on the wine press itself. You could just take a cup of that juice, I guess, that you just stomped on with your very clean feet, and you could drink it. Bein al achamen, bein al atzonen. Whether you're then mixing that water, diluting that juice, right? Diluting that juice with cold water or hot water, it makes no difference. It's going to be patur from meiser. Now, first of all, it's interesting that they were diluting it with any water, right? Because, in the time of the Gemara, they would dilute their wine because their wine apparently was a concentrate, so they had to dilute it. But this is just grape juice. Why would they have to dilute grape juice? But in any event, it says that they would dilute it, whether they were diluting it with cold water or hot water? What's the difference? Cold water, theoretically, you could dilute it with the cold water, and whatever's left over, you can just spill back in with the rest of the grapes. So it wouldn't be considered kavua, potentially, right? But if you use hot water, well, then they say don't, if you mix it with hot water, don't pour the hot water back into the wine press, because then maybe it'll cause like some kind of oxidation. The heat will cause some kind of oxidation to the wine, which would make it turn into vinegar. So that would be considered keva. So there's a havmina to say that even if you're on the wine vat itself, you're in the wine vat itself, and you take a glass of juice and you mix it with hot water, then maybe it would be chayiv in meiser, because it's keva. You can't put it back in. You're definitely taking it away. But anyways, Divrei Meir. Meir says that if you're in the wine press itself, you could drink that wine, even if you dilute it with hot water. Doesn't matter. Rabbi Elazar Rab Tzadik Mechayev. Rabbi Elazar Rab Tzadik says, no, ma patom. You have to take, I don't care, even if it's in the wine press, you still have to take meiser. Chachamim are somewhere in between. Alacham and chayev, alatzon and pater. If you are mixing the wine, you're in the wine press, and you're mixing the wine with hot water, well then it's going to be chayev and meiser, because you can't put it back, so therefore it's kavua. You're definitely taking it away. But if you mix it with cold water, so then since you can put it back, so it would not be chayav in meiser, because it would still be considered arai. Fine, because it'll put back the rest, therefore it could be considered arai. So Rava learns the v'chein begas is not talking about a carmelis. He would say that in a carmelis you would be able to lean over and drink from there, because it would be a gezerah on what's already a gezerah, right? Doing hotzah to and from a carmelis. So therefore we say you can lean over and drink from a carmelis according to Rava. Okay, fine. The Gemara has a kasha on Rava. Tanan, we learn in a Mishnah. Wow, the wind is mamish howling over here. I'm in a new place. This isn't an Airbnb. This is just my friend's place. I'm subletting it from him. But the wind is really howling over here. Anyways, so we say that a tailor should not go out with his so we're saying that a tailor should not go out with his needle close to sundown on Friday, because we're concerned that he might go out to the Rosh Hashanah. Okay, fine. My lab, the tchuvulo bevigdo. And we're assuming that he's not carrying it normally. He's carrying it, stuck in his beged, in his garment. So he's just taking the needle and he's kind of sticking it in his garment, and he's been going out like that. Now that's not the normal way to carry a needle or to carry anything on Shabbos. What's the normal way to carry something? In your hand. Now the Gemara wants to assume that he's not carrying it in his hand, he's just kind of sticking it into his clothing. In which case, he's being motzi shelo kedarko, which the Isser is only midrabanan anyways. And yet we're still saying that he shouldn't do this within a half an hour of sundown on Friday. So we're making a gezerah not to go out with the needle a half an hour before sundown, in order to prevent him from being over on a different gezerah, which is that he shouldn't carry shelo kedarko. So we see that that we do make a gezerah on a gezerah. So why is Rava so against saying that he, Rava has no problem with a person, leaning over into a carmelis and drinking on Shabbos, because he says, why should we make a gezerah on a gezerah? Well, we see that in our Mishnah we're making a gezerah on a gezerah by saying the tailor shouldn't go out with his needle. So the Gemara says, lo, denakale biyadeh. No, it's not talking about where he stuck it in his clothing. It's talking about where he's holding it in his hand. So therefore it's a normal hotzah, and if he would be motzi it on Shabbos like this, he'd be chayiv midoraisa, chayiv a korban. So therefore we're saying within a half an hour of Shabbos, don't do it to avoid being over on the Isser Doraisa of Hotzah, implying that if it was Tchuva Bevigdo, if it was in his clothing, which is only Midrabanan, maybe he wouldn't have to stop in advance, because we don't want to make a Gezerah and a Gezerah. Tashma lo yetze achayit b'machto atchuva lo bevigdo. Oh, we have a brisa that says, don't go out, right, that a tailor should not go out with a needle that is stuck in his clothing. So it's pretty clear there. He's not carrying it in his hand. It's in his clothing. My lav be'erev Shabbos. And mistama, we're talking about on Erev Shabbos. And you see, we're making a gzera l'gzera. We're saying, don't go out on Erev Shabbos with the thing stuck in your clothing, because we don't want you to go out with it stuck in your clothing on Shabbos. And it's a gzera on a gzera. Lo. Kitanya ahi b'Shabbos. No, that brayso that says don't go out with the thing stuck in your clothing, with the needle stuck in your clothing, it's on Shabbos. Don't do that. Because even though it's shelo kedarko, still it's a problem. Don't go out with it on Shabbos. But if it was Erev Shabbos, it would be fine, because we're not going to make a gzera l'gzera. Ve'atanya, but we learned in the brayso lo yotzei achayit b'machto atchuva b'vigdo be'erev Shabbos im chashecha. But one second, we have another brayso which says that the tailor should not go out with his needle that's stuck in his clothing on Erev Shabbos before it gets dark. Boom. So there you see, you can't really deny that one, right? Right? It's talking about, right, tchuva b'vigdo, so it's shelo kedarko, so it's only also midrabanan anyways. And we're still saying that before Shabbos you shouldn't do it, so we're making a gzera l'gzera. So Gemara says, okay, fine. Hamani, but who is that? Who's the author of that brayso that says not to go out samuch chashecha with the tchuva b'vigdo? It's Rabbi Yehuda. Hamani Rabbi Yehuda he. Damar uman derech umanaso chayev. The Rabbi Yehuda says that if it's a craftsman and he's being motzi something by way of his craft, so then he's going to be chayev. And therefore, even though in general, if a person would, I guess, stick a needle in his shirt and go out like that, it wouldn't be considered the normal way to carry. But for a tailor, it's not necessarily that uncommon for him to stick it in his clothing and go out, and therefore it makes it normal for him, and therefore it would be actually chayiv midoraisa. So when we say that the tailor should not go out with the needle in his shirt, Erev Shabbos, it's actually a gzera midrabanan to avoid him being over in Isser Doraisa, which is hotzah with the thing in his shirt. Implying, I think, that for everybody else, though, the needle in the shirt would only be midrabanan, and maybe then you wouldn't have to refrain from doing it right before Shabbos, because it would be a gzera l'gzera. The Tanya, as we learn in the brayso, lo yotzi achayit b'machto atchuv lo b'vigdo. A tailor should not go out with the needle that is stuck in his clothing. V'lo nagar b'kesam sheba'ozno. And a carpenter should not go out with the some kind of wood chip in his ear. I understood from Rashi that it was like some kind of like a plane, like something to make sure that things are straight. The Safari defined it as like a ruler or something, but basically some kind of tool that is specific for a carpenter. And this is super interesting. So Rashi says that they would do these things. Shenosnin also, I'm in Rashi bekesam sheba'ozno, kind of towards the end of the Rashi. Shenosnin also bnei umanus alein b'tseisam lashuk kedei she'akiru me'ezo umanusu v'yaskiru l'melacha. This is so cool. So, like nowadays, people wear T-shirts that have their business written on it, right? If you're a carpenter, you might wear a T-shirt that has you're a carpenter, right? Or if you're working at a pizza store, maybe you're wearing a T-shirt that has the name of the pizza store on there. I guess back then they didn't necessarily have T-shirts and stuff. How do you sort of advertise your business? So if you're a carpenter, you walk around with like a ruler behind your ear. If you're a tailor, you walk around with your needle stuck in your clothing, and that way people would say, you're a tailor. I have some tailoring work I need. Are you interested? And that's how they would promote their business. Extremely interesting. Somebody who combs wool to get out like the thorns and stuff. So I guess he would have some kind of thing that he'd use to wrap up like the thorns and branches and stuff. So he shouldn't go out with that wrapper thing. And a weaver should not go out with some kind of cloth that he would use to somehow, tighten the woof or something like that. And if he's a dyer, somebody who makes dyes, so you shouldn't go out with examples of dyed wool on his neck. And a money changer shouldn't go out with a coin in his ear. Okay? All of these are ways to promote their business. So even though these aren't, let's say, normal ways to carry these things, but for these people, it's normal enough. But if you did go out like this, it would be pater avalasar because it's not the normal way to carry. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Uman derech umanaso chayev ushar kol adam pater. So Rabbi Yehuda says that if he's a craftsman doing it in the normal way of his craft, as by way of his crafts, then he's going to be chayiv for carrying in this way, but everybody else will be pater. So therefore, when we say that a tailor who goes out shouldn't go out on Erev Shabbos with his needle stuck in his garment, that's because it's going like Rabbi Yehuda, who says that it would be asur midoraisa for him to go out with it in his garment on Shabbos. Therefore, already on Erev Shabbos, he shouldn't do that. Okay, I think we're going to stop here. We do have a decent amount to do still on the page, but it really gets into a whole new sugya about zav and stuff like that. It's actually a little bit complicated. So I think we're going to start with that tomorrow. So just come prepared tomorrow with your game face. That's it. Today was cool. We had a bunch of agaditas from Rav Bar Machasya, Amar Rav Cham Bar Guria, Amar Rav. And then we started getting into carrying stuff on Shabbos, which is cool. I guess we've been getting into that for a while already, but I guess now we're thinking about objects and derech hotza'ah and cool things like that. Cool, everyone. Peace.